Sweat drips down a rookie cop's gun barrel. His hands shake, but his eyes burn with pride. He thinks he just caught a cartel killer. He has no idea. Under the fluorescent lights, a black man kneels in handcuffs, calm, silent, waiting. "You are making a career-ending mistake," he whispers. The rookie laughs. 90 seconds later, armored trucks smash through the fence. Laser sights find his chest. His whole world is about to collapse. This is the night Officer Brantley Wood destroys his own life. The heat over West Baltimore was suffocating. It rippled off the cracked asphalt of Fiette Street, bending the outline of an abandoned industrial park in the shimmering July air. 2 blocks away, inside a rusted, unmarked surveillance van, Supervisory Special Agent Doyle Adler wiped sweat from his brow. His eyes locked on 4 flickering screens. 18 grueling months had led to this single hour. Operation Iron Clasp had one target, the Holloway syndicate, a narcotics and weapons ring that had turned the city's port into its private playground. Deep inside Warehouse 4, Supervisory Special Agent Kendrick Hayes moved silently through the cartel's makeshift office. He was 34, sharp-eyed, built lean and strong from years of military discipline. A faded charcoal hoodie, scuffed boots and distressed jeans hid the truth. He was the most dangerous man in the building. Woven into the seam of his collar, a microscopic wire carried every whispered word back to Adler's earpiece. Outside, a police perimeter held the block for containment only, nothing more. Sitting in a marked cruiser was Officer Brantley Wood, 26 years old, barely 3 years on the force, already known for the wrong reasons. He hated waiting. He hated taking orders from federal agents even more. "We're just sitting here while the feds get all the glory," Wood muttered, drumming his fingers on the wheel. Beside him, his partner, Sergeant Thomas Alley, kept tired eyes fixed on the alley. "Hold the line, Brantley. That's the job today," Wood scoffed. He didn't believe in waiting his turn for anyone. Then static cracked over the radio. A stray transmission, a noise complaint 2 streets over, meant for someone else entirely. But in Wood's restless mind, it meant only one thing. The target was slipping away, and the feds were about to miss it. Wood's hand dropped to the grip of his Glock. "Did you hear that?" he whispered sharply, eyes locked on a side door propped open by a cinder block. "Someone's moving by the loading dock. The feds are missing it." "I didn't hear anything, kid," Alley said, panic rising under his firm voice. "Stay in the car. We hold the perimeter. That's the rule. Rules of engagement don't mean a thing if the target escapes right under our noses." Wood shoved his door open and sprinted into the shadows before Alley could grab his vest, moving with reckless speed, driven by a hunger for glory and a bias he never once questioned. He didn't think about crossfire. He didn't think about who else might be inside that warehouse working a job far more dangerous than his own. He thought only about the medal, the headline, the moment his name would finally mean something. Inside the warehouse office, Kendrick worked fast and methodical, slipping the photographed ledgers back into a rusted lockbox, careful to leave everything exactly as he'd found it. No fingerprints, no disturbed dust, no trace that anyone had ever been there. He tapped his collar mic twice, a rehearsed signal, and lowered his voice to barely a breath. "Adler, this is Hayes. I have the hard evidence. The money trail is documented. I'm ready for extraction. Give Tactical the green light. Copy that. Breach in 90 seconds. Stay out of the main corridor." Adler crackled back, steady and clipped. Kendrick slid his sidearm into the concealed holster at his back and took a slow, steadying breath, angling himself toward a reinforced steel pillar for cover. And that's when the side door crashed open, ripped clean off its hinges with a metallic scream. Dust billowed through the dim corridor as Officer Wood charged in, weapon raised, flashlight cutting wild, jagged arcs through the gloom. He moved loud and careless, boots crunching over debris, breathing hard, nothing at all like the disciplined silence of the FBI's hostage rescue team. Kendrick's instincts fired instantly. This was not the breach he had been promised. This was something far more unpredictable. The flashlight beam swung and found him. A black man in a charcoal hoodie, standing calm and still in the shadows. Wood's mind never paused to look closer, never registered the empty hands, the total absence of a drawn weapon. He didn't see an undercover federal agent doing his job. He saw exactly what his prejudice had already decided he would see, long before he ever kicked in that door. "Freeze! Police! Show me your hands!" Wood roared, his voice cracking off the concrete, his aim trembling almost as badly as his voice. Kendrick raised his palms slowly, open, empty, the universal sign of surrender, the one taught in every academy in the country. "Take a breath, officer," he said, his voice low and even, deliberately calm, designed to slow the moment down before it could spiral. "I'm a federal agent. My credentials are in my left front pocket. Lower your weapon." Wood only stepped closer, the barrel leveled dead at Kendrick's face, close enough now that Kendrick could see the sweat beading on the young officer's upper lip. "Yeah, right, every thug I catch works for the CIA. Shut your mouth. Get on the ground. Cross your ankles now." In Kendrick's ear, Adler's voice flared with sudden alarm. "Hayes, what's happening? Who is that?" "We don't have eyes on that corridor. Local PD," Kendrick murmured under his breath, barely moving his lips, his eyes never leaving Wood, "holding me at gunpoint. Hold the breach. If the team comes in hot right now, this kid panics and pulls the trigger." "Who are you talking to?" Wood screamed, spittle flying, and before Kendrick could answer, the officer lunged forward, grabbed a fistful of his hoodie, and swept his legs out from under him with brutal force. Kendrick could have disarmed him in 3 seconds flat. Every instinct trained into him screamed for it. He let himself fall instead. He hit the concrete hard, biting down on a grunt of pain as his shoulder absorbed the impact, because any resistance now, any flash of skill from a man Wood had already decided was a criminal, would only hand this cop the justification he was so clearly desperate for. Wood drove a knee into the center of Kendrick's spine with vicious force, wrenched his arms back at a painful angle, and slapped on handcuffs hard enough to bruise, ratcheting them tighter than they needed to be. "I told you to shut up," he spat, breath hot and ragged. "I know exactly who you are. You're muscle for Holloway." Kendrick pressed his cheek to the cold, filthy concrete, his voice never once wavering. "I am Supervisory Special Agent Kendrick Hayes, FBI. You are currently interfering in an active federal operation. Reach into my left pocket. Feel the badge. Check your radio. Ask your supervisor. You are making a massive mistake. The only mistake made today was you getting out of bed, boy." Wood's hands moved past the badge pocket on purpose, patting Kendrick down until he found the concealed sidearm at his lower back and ripped it away with a triumphant grunt, as though he'd just won something. Then his thick fingers brushed the wire hidden in the collar seam. He tore it free in one motion, crushing the tiny microphone in his fist. "Wearing a wire, huh? Who's on the other end? Your cartel buddies." He keyed his own shoulder radio instead, chest puffed with pride he hadn't earned. "Sergeant Ali, this is Wood. I've secured a high-value suspect inside the East Wing. Armed, aggressive, neutralized. Tell those federal stiffs they can come do the paperwork." "I did their job for them." Ali's terrified voice cracked back through the static, urgent and shaking. "Wood, what did you just do? The FBI hasn't breached yet. Fall back immediately. That is a direct order." Wood only rolled his eyes and turned the volume down, smiling at the man cuffed beneath him on the floor. "Your sergeant just tried to save your career," Kendrick said softly, almost gently. "You just destroyed it, and when that door opens, you're going to understand exactly how deeply. Keep talking, trash." Wood drew his weapon again, pressing the barrel carelessly against the back of Kendrick's skull. "I'm the one with the badge. I'm the one with the gun. And you're just another thug on the floor. Now we wait for the feds, and I get my medal." Kendrick closed his eyes and began quietly to count the seconds. He wasn't afraid, he was furious. A cold, controlled fury, and he knew exactly what was about to crash through the walls, and knew Brantley Wood was entirely, catastrophically unprepared for it. The silence broke first as a low rumble beneath the concrete, vibrating up through Wood's boots. Then, with a deafening roar, the exterior door exploded off its steel hinges in a wall of fire, smoke and falling dust. The blast rocked the corridor, raining rust and dust from the ceiling in a choking cloud. Wood stumbled backward, ears ringing violently, swinging his weapon toward the noise, panic flashing bright across his face. "What the hell?" he yelled, voice barely audible over the ringing. "Drop your weapon, Wood," Kendrick commanded, his voice slicing clean through the chaos. "Drop it and put your hands on your head. Shut up!" Wood aimed blindly into the smoke, utterly unaware that the shadows around him were already full of shapes moving with terrifying, silent precision. 4 flashbangs detonated at once in the adjoining rooms, and the world turned blinding white. Laser sights sliced through the haze, red and green beams converging from every angle, locking dead center onto Wood's chest, his neck, his forehead, as 24 FBI tactical operators materialized out of the smoke like something out of a nightmare, heavy boots striking the concrete in perfect synchronized rhythm. "Drop the weapon! Drop it now! Do it!" Wood froze completely, paralyzed by the overwhelming wall of armor and steel closing in around him from every direction. His arrogance, so loud only seconds before, collapsed instantly into naked, unadulterated terror. His hands shook so violently the pistol nearly slipped from his fingers. "I'm a cop," he shrieked, his voice cracking like a frightened child's. "I'm Baltimore PD. I'm on your side. I got the suspect. Drop the gun or you will be neutralized." The lead operator roared, the muzzle of his rifle inches from Wood's face. The weapon finally clattered to the floor. 2 operators slammed into him instantly, driving him against the wall hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs, ripping his arms behind his back and zip-tying his wrists before he could process what was happening to him. From the back of the tactical formation, Supervisory Special Agent Doyle Adler stepped forward, tall, immaculate even now in a dark, tailored suit, his face a mask of cold, terrifying fury. He didn't even look at Wood yet. He walked straight past him to Kendrick, knelt down, pulled a specialized key from his pocket, and unlocked the handcuffs himself. "Are you hit, Kendrick?" he asked, voice tight with genuine concern as he helped him to his feet. Kendrick rubbed his raw, bruised wrists, rolling his injured shoulder back with a wince. "I'm fine, Dave. Just a bruised ego and a broken wire." Pinned against the wall by 2 massive operators, Wood watched the exchange with wide, disbelieving eyes, the blood draining entirely from his face, leaving him pale and sick. "Sir," he stammered, voice trembling uncontrollably, "I caught him. He was guarding the stash. He's one of Holloway's guys." Adler turned slowly toward him, and the look in his eyes was pure murder. He crossed the distance and stopped inches from Wood's face, forcing the young officer's head back against the wall. "This man," Adler said, voice a low, terrifying growl carrying more weight than any shout, is Supervisory Special Agent Kendrick Hayes, a 12-year veteran of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the lead undercover operative on a multi-agency task force that has spent 8 months risking his life to dismantle a cartel you couldn't even dream of touching. He told you who he was. He told you where his badge was. He told you to call your supervisor. And you deliberately chose to ignore every single word. I didn't know, his throat tight, a wave of nausea rolling through him. He didn't look like an agent. He looked like what? Kendrick interrupted, stepping forward, brushing the dust off his hoodie, his posture radiating quiet, undeniable authority. Like a criminal? Like a thug? Because I'm black and wearing a hoodie in West Baltimore. Wood couldn't meet his eyes, couldn't find a single word to defend himself with. "You didn't see an agent because you didn't want to see one," Kendrick said, cold and resolute. "You wanted to play hero. You wanted to profile a suspect, rough him up, and get a pat on the back. Well, congratulations, Officer Wood. You just made the arrest of a lifetime." Adler gestured sharply to the operators holding him. "Strip him of his badge, his radio, and his secondary weapon. Read him his rights. Then get him in the transport van. He's in federal custody now." As the operators dragged him away, Miranda rights still being read into his ringing ears, Wood looked back one last time and saw Kendrick calmly retrieving his own FBI badge from his pocket, clipping it to his belt without a trace of ceremony, and walking back into the warehouse to finish the job Wood had nearly destroyed for good. The chaotic echo of the breach slowly faded, replaced by the sharp, disciplined rhythm of a hostage rescue team systematically clearing every remaining sector of Warehouse 4. Dust particles danced in heavy flashlight beams as agents secured the loading bays, zip-tying a handful of stunned cartel guards. In the makeshift office, Kendrick pulled latex gloves over his bruised wrists, his breathing finally settling into a steady rhythm, waving off a medic checking a scrape on his neck. Adler stepped in, phone pressed to his ear, jaw tight with restrained anger. He ended the call and turned to Kendrick, expression grave. "Perimeter's fully secured by our people now," Adler said, dropping his voice so it wouldn't carry into the corridor. "I just had a very unpleasant conversation with the police commissioner. He's mortified. Mortified doesn't recover lost assets. What did we actually manage to secure before that trigger-happy rookie blew the stealth approach? Enough to gut their logistics," Kendrick said, bagging evidence into clear, tamper-evident sleeves. "But we missed the head of the snake. My wire ran for 40 minutes before Wood tore it out. I have high-definition photographs of the master ledgers, offshore accounts routed through shell corporations, burner communication logs, the names of every dock worker and customs inspector on Holloway's payroll. It's a gold mine on paper, Dave. But paper doesn't put handcuffs on Damian Holloway. We had to breach early to save my life, and his lieutenants weren't even in the building. They're ghosts again." Adler slammed his fist against the steel doorframe, a rare crack in his usual iron composure. 18 months. 18 months of you living undercover, sleeping with one eye open, and it gets kneecapped because some glory-hound beat cop couldn't follow a simple hold-the-line order. Ego is the great destroyer of tactical operations. The moment an officer believes he's bigger than the mission is already dead. Before his fury could spiral further, heavy footsteps approached. 2 operators escorted in a visibly trembling older officer, Sergeant Thomas Alley, Wood's partner, looking as though he'd aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes, his uniform hat crushed in white-knuckled hands. "Agents," Alley rasped, voice cracking with shame. "I tried to stop him. I ordered him to stay in the cruiser." He heard a noise complaint on the local band and thought the target was slipping away. He just snapped. He wanted a medal. Kendrick studied the sergeant carefully, reading the micro-expressions of a man with nothing left to hide. What he saw wasn't deception. It was profound, soul-crushing regret. "Sergeant," he said softly, stepping closer, "did you broadcast your position on an unencrypted local channel when you tried to call him back?" Ali flinched, the last color draining from his face. "When he ran, I panicked. I keyed the radio. I told him to fall back because the FBI hadn't breached yet. I used the open frequency." Adler let out a sharp, cynical laugh, shaking his head. "And there it is, the fatal error. The Holloway syndicate runs deep web scanners that monitor local police frequencies around the clock. They don't have access to our federal encrypted lines, which is exactly why we ordered your precinct to maintain absolute radio silence. When Officer Wood keyed his mic to brag, and when you keyed yours to scream about our breach, you didn't just talk to each other. You broadcast our entire operational timeline to every cartel lieutenant within 50 miles holding a scanner. You rang the dinner bell, Sergeant. Holloway is gone. His enforcers are gone. They likely burned their secondary safe houses the second they heard Wood's voice." Ali closed his eyes, a single tear of utter defeat tracing a line through the dirt on his cheek. "I'm sorry. God help me. I am so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix this," Adler replied coldly. "Your badge and gun go to the internal affairs captain waiting outside. You're suspended pending a full federal inquiry. Get him out of my sight." As the operators led the devastated sergeant away, Kendrick stared down at the shattered earpiece resting on the concrete floor. The physical damage to the equipment was minimal. The tactical damage was astronomical. Brantley Wood hadn't just assaulted a federal agent. Through his aggressive ignorance and racial profiling, he had inadvertently become the cartel's most effective early warning system, and now it was time for him to understand exactly what that meant. Kendrick picked up the shattered earpiece and turned it over once in his fingers. "Dave, prep an interrogation room at the field office. Strip Wood of his uniform and put him in federal holding greens. He thinks he's just in trouble for roughing up a cop. He has no idea he's about to be investigated for criminal conspiracy." Adler nodded, a predatory gleam returning to his tired eyes. "I'll make sure the room is exceptionally cold." The interrogation room deep in the FBI's Baltimore field office was a masterclass in psychological discomfort. sterile gray walls, fluorescent lights humming with a low, headache-inducing buzz. The air conditioning was locked at a frigid 60 degrees, ensuring no one in the metal chair bolted to the floor could ever truly relax. Officer Brantley Wood had sat there for 4 hours and 22 minutes. Gone was the uniform that once gave him a false sense of invincibility. Stripped of his badge, his vest, his boots, he now wore a bright orange Federal holding jumpsuit, wrists cuffed to an iron ring anchored to the steel table. The silence had been breaking him slowly. The first hour he'd screamed for his union rep. By the second, the anger had curdled into raw anxiety, and he paced as far as the short chain allowed. By the fourth, the crushing reality of federal custody had shattered his ego completely. He sat slumped, shivering, eyes red and swollen, staring at nothing at all. The steel door finally clicked open. Kendrick walked in, changed now into a sharply tailored navy suit and crisp white shirt, every inch the Agent Wood had refused to see hours before. He carried a thick manila folder. Adler leaned against the closed door, arms crossed, face a wall of stone. Kendrick sat down across from Wood and set the folder on the table with a loud, deliberate thud. For a long minute, he said nothing. He simply stared at the young, broken man, not with anger, but with something far heavier, profound pity. For someone whose entire identity had been built on dominance, that pity was worse than any blow. I want my union rep," Wood stammered, voice weak and trembling, refusing to make eye contact. "He was contacted 3 hours ago," Kendrick said, voice smooth, calm, utterly devastating. He spoke directly to the Assistant United States Attorney. When he heard the preliminary list of charges, he advised the Union to distance themselves from you immediately. "You're on your own, Brantley." Wood's head snapped up, panic flaring bright in his eyes. "They can't do that. I pay my dues. I made a mistake. It was dark. You were wearing a hoodie. You didn't look like an agent. And what does an FBI agent look like, Brantley?" Kendrick asked, leaning forward slightly, interlacing his fingers on the table. "Because I clearly verbally identified myself, I instructed you exactly where to find my credentials. I complied with every unlawful command you gave me. The only reason you didn't see an agent is because your bias blinded you to the reality standing right in front of you. You saw a black man in a hoodie in West Baltimore, and your prejudice wrote the rest of the story for you." Wood opened his mouth to argue, but the words died somewhere in his throat. Strangled by the cold, unblinking stare of the man he had violently assaulted, Kendrick opened the thick folder. "Let's review the current trajectory of your life. As of this exact moment, the Department of Justice is preparing an indictment against you. Assaulting, resisting, or impeding a federal officer with a dangerous weapon. Deprivation of rights under color of law. Obstruction of proceedings before a federal agency. These aren't local civilian complaints your sympathetic captain can quietly file away, Brantley. These are federal felonies. The assault charge alone carries a maximum of 20 years in a federal penitentiary. Deprivation of rights adds another 10, and that's before we even discuss the destruction of specialized federal surveillance equipment." Wood began to hyperventilate, color draining from his face. "Please," he choked out, tears spilling over. "Please, Agent Hayes, I'm sorry. I swear to God, I am so sorry. You have to believe me, I didn't know." "I don't care if you're sorry, Brantley," Kendrick replied coldly. "I care about the damage you caused, because your assault on me is actually the least of your problems right now." Adler stepped into the light, setting a small audio recorder on the table. He pressed a button, and the room filled with the static-laced recording of Wood's own arrogant voice. "Sergeant Ali, this is Wood. I've secured a high-value suspect. Armed, aggressive, but neutralized. Tell those federal stiffs they can come in and do the paperwork. I did their job for them." Adler stopped the recording. "Do you know who else heard that, Officer Wood? The Holloway syndicate. You couldn't keep your mouth shut, so you alerted the cartel to the raid." Wood stared at the recorder, mouth opening and closing. "No, that's a local channel. They couldn't. They have scanners," Kendrick interrupted sharply. "The moment you spoke, Holloway's lieutenants aborted their arrival, burned their locations, and vanished. An 18-month federal operation derailed because you wanted to play cowboy." "I didn't mean to," Wood cried out, pulling frantically at the handcuffs, the metal clinking loudly against the iron ring. "I was trying to help. I thought I was making a bust." Kendrick slammed his hand down on the table, and a sudden violent sound instantly silenced Wood. "You were trying to feed your ego." His voice finally rose, filling the small room with overwhelming authority. "You compromised federal intelligence. You aided the escape of a high-level narcotics trafficker, which means, Brantley, the United States Attorney is currently drafting a fourth charge, conspiracy to aid and abet a known criminal syndicate." "No!" Wood screamed, terror ripping through his voice. "No, I'm not dirty. I'm not with them. I swear on my mother's life I don't work for Holloway. I'm just a cop." "You're not a cop anymore," Adler corrected, voice a low, terrifying rumble. "You're a federal inmate looking at 40 years in a supermax prison where every single inmate knows you used to wear a badge. You are finished." Wood broke completely, slumping forward, sobbing against the cold steel table. The arrogant predator from the alleyway was gone, eradicated by the crushing weight of federal justice. He wept for his career, his freedom, for the truth that his own bigotry had destroyed his life in less than 90 seconds. Kendrick watched, feeling no satisfaction, only weariness. He closed the folder slowly. "There's exactly one path forward for you, Wood," Kendrick said softly, waiting for the disgraced officer to lift his tear-streaked face. "You're going to tell me absolutely everything about your precinct. Every rumor, every off-book meeting, every officer who suddenly bought a new boat or a sports car on a patrolman's salary. Because someone in your district has been feeding Holloway our operational timelines for months, and your little stunt just proved it." He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "You have exactly 24 hours to decide if you want to be a cooperative witness against a corrupt department, or if you want to take the fall as Holloway's inside man. Choose wisely, because this is the last lifeline I will ever offer you." He turned and walked out, leaving Brantley Wood chained to the table, entirely alone in the suffocating ruins of his own making. Dawn broke over the Baltimore skyline, pale light through the reinforced glass of the field office. Inside the command center, Kendrick stood over a sprawling map, coffee in hand, bruises deepening on his wrists. But his mind was already 10 steps ahead. Adler marched in, exhaustion tightening his face, eyes burning with renewed focus. He tossed a decrypted burner phone onto the table. "Wood finally broke completely," Adler announced. "Cried for his mother for 3 hours, then started singing. He gave us a name, a very big, very heavily protected name." Kendrick set his coffee down, posture straightening instantly. "Who has been leaking our operational timelines to the syndicate?" "Captain Richard Miller," Adler replied, pulling up a digital dossier. "Commanding officer of the 14th District, Wood's ultimate superior." A heavy silence fell. Miller was a 30-year veteran who had built his career on taking down organized crime in the 90s. But the dossier told a different story. Offshore debt that had mysteriously vanished 3 months earlier, an ex-wife's alimony suddenly paid in full. He didn't just alter patrol routes, Kendrick said, connecting the scattered pieces with terrifying speed. He handed Damian Holloway our encrypted raid schedules directly. That's why the secondary safe houses were empty. Miller tipped them off the moment he heard Wood compromise the perimeter. "Exactly," Adler nodded grimly. "Wood is a bigoted fool, but he isn't dirty. He was just the chaos Miller used to cover his tracks. Now we have a chance to turn this disaster into a masterstroke." They built the plan fast, codenamed Operation Judas Trap. Flush Miller out of his precinct fortress and catch him directly with the cartel. Back in the interrogation room, Kendrick tossed clean clothes onto the table. "We verified your intel, Brantley. Miller's dirty. Now you're going to help us catch him. Do this exactly right, and the U.S. Attorney drops the conspiracy charge. You'll still go to prison for assaulting me, but you'll see daylight before you turn 50. Wood nodded frantically, hands shaking as Adler unlocked his cuffs. "Anything. I'll do anything." "What do you need me to do?" Kendrick leaned in, voice dropping to a low, commanding whisper. "You're going to call Captain Miller on a secure line. Tell him that before the FBI arrested you, you pocketed one of the cartel's master ledger drives from the warehouse office. Tell him you want $100,000 in cash and safe passage out of the city, or you're handing that drive straight to internal affairs." Wood swallowed hard, terror flashing behind his eyes. "He'll kill me. If he's working for Holloway, they'll just kill me." "They will certainly try," Adler countered with a grim smile. "Which is why we'll be waiting for them." The phone call was agonizingly tense, Wood's voice shaking so badly it accidentally sold the lie perfectly. Miller, blinded by his own desperation to tie up loose ends, took the bait completely, agreeing to meet at an abandoned shipping yard on the southern edge of the harbor at midnight, promising to bring the cash himself. Midnight arrived with a torrential downpour. Rain lashed the rusted shipping containers lining the southern harbor, the only light a flickering sodium lamp casting long shadows across the slick asphalt. Hidden atop a crane, an FBI sniper team held overwatch. Dozens of tactical operators blended into the darkness, suppressed rifles ready. In the center of the kill zone stood Brantley Wood, clutching a waterproof envelope to his chest, heart hammering. Every shadow looked like an assassin. For the first time in his life, he understood what it felt like to be completely vulnerable. Tires hissed against wet pavement as a black SUV rolled into the yard. Headlights cutting through the rain, stopping 20 yards away. Captain Richard Miller stepped out, a large man wrapped in a trench coat. He hadn't come alone. 2 armed cartel enforcers stepped out behind him, hands on submachine guns. "You always were a stupid liability, Wood." Miller called over the rain. He wasn't carrying cash. He held his service weapon against his thigh. "There's no money, Brantley. Only a story about a disgraced rookie who couldn't handle the pressure and took his own life at the docks." Before Miller could level his weapon, the trap snapped shut. "FBI, drop your weapons now!" The command came from directly behind him. Kendrick emerged from the SUV's blind spot, parrying Miller's gun hand aside, driving an elbow into his sternum, sweeping his legs out onto the wet asphalt. 4 flashbangs detonated around the enforcers, dropping them to their knees. In under 3 seconds, 24 operators swarmed in, disarming and pinning them. Kendrick knelt over Miller, rifle barrel against his chest, rain washing blood from his split lip. "Captain Richard Miller, you're under arrest for conspiracy, corruption, and attempted murder of a federal witness. Your career is over." Miller stared up, eyes wide with shock. He had entirely underestimated Kendrick Hayes. The fallout from that rainy night at the docks completely reshaped the landscape of Baltimore law enforcement. Captain Richard Miller was indicted on 22 federal charges. Facing a mountain of incontrovertible evidence and the testimonies of cartel enforcers eager to flip on him to save themselves, he pleaded guilty to avoid a life sentence and was handed 35 years in a maximum security federal penitentiary. The badge he had worn for 3 decades, the one he'd used to shield a criminal syndicate instead of the city that trusted him, was surrendered in a small manila envelope and never spoken of again. Without Miller's protection, and with the master ledgers finally secured, the Holloway syndicate began to collapse within weeks. Shipments stopped moving through the port. Bank accounts froze one by one across 3 continents. Street captains who had once answered only to Damian Holloway suddenly found themselves answering to federal grand juries instead. Holloway himself, the man who had built an empire out of Baltimore's docks and out of the silence corrupt men like Miller had sold him, was finally apprehended a month later in a quiet raid on a beachfront condominium in Miami, led, fittingly, by the very agent whose cover he had once threatened to blow without ever knowing his name, Kendrick Hayes. Brantley Wood stood before a federal judge 3 months later, stripped of his badge, his arrogance, and his freedom. He pleaded guilty to assaulting a federal agent. His court-appointed attorney argued at length that Wood's cooperation had ultimately brought down a corrupt captain and helped dismantle an entire criminal syndicate, that some good, however accidental, had come from that night in the warehouse. The judge listened carefully, weighing every word, but she refused to look past the sheer malice of that first violent encounter on the warehouse floor, the profiling, the needless force, the deliberate choice to see a threat instead of a man simply doing his job, a man who had told him the truth 3 separate times and been ignored 3 separate times. Cooperation after the fact, she said, does not erase the harm done in the moment of choice. She sentenced him to 8 years in federal prison, as Wood was led out of the courtroom in heavy steel shackles, the very same kind he had once so eagerly snapped onto Kendrick's wrists. He looked back one last time toward the gallery. Kendrick Hayes stood there, posture perfect, expression completely unreadable. He offered no smile, no gloating, no forgiveness. He simply watched as the heavy wooden doors of the courtroom swung shut, sealing the fate of a man whose own bigotry had been his ultimate devastating undoing. Kendrick turned and walked out of the courthouse, adjusting his suit jacket in the pale morning light. He thought, briefly, of Sergeant Ali, who had accepted a quiet resignation rather than fight the internal inquiry. A good man undone by one panicked moment, a lesson Kendrick carried differently than the one he carried for Wood. Regret was not the same as malice, and the Bureau, for all its cold procedure, had understood that distinction when it let Ali walk away with his pension intact. Instead of his freedom taken, there were still other syndicates to dismantle. Other corrupt officials hiding behind badges of their own, still waiting to be exposed. The mission never truly ended. It simply moved on, quietly, to the next city, the next warehouse, the next lie, waiting patiently to be uncovered by someone willing to walk into the dark for it. Behind him, Baltimore kept moving. Buses rumbled past. Sirens rose and faded somewhere across the harbor. Ordinary people walked to ordinary jobs, entirely unaware of how close their city had come to losing everything to men who mistook a badge for permission and a uniform for proof of righteousness. Somewhere in a federal facility far from the city he once policed, Brantley Wood would spend the next 8 years learning, slowly and painfully, the lesson he had refused to learn in the space of 90 violent seconds on a warehouse floor. That judgment made in the dark, built on nothing but fear and prejudice, always finds its way into the light eventually. And when it finally does, it never asks anyone for forgiveness. Kendrick Hayes didn't need an apology. He never had. He needed only the truth to stand on its own, plainly, for anyone willing to look at it honestly. And on that quiet morning, under a pale and steady Baltimore sky, walking away from a courthouse that had finally called things by their true names, it finally, completely did.